Welcome to the Baker Files. I'm Adrienne.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tyler.
We're a mother son duo who share a fascination with true crime, criminal behavior, and the questions that often get overlooked. Most true crime podcasts focus on what happened. We want to focus on why it happened. Each episode will break down documentaries, criminal cases, and controversial stories through two different generations and two different perspectives.
And we're going to try to answer the questions that keep you up at night, the here's and whys of into the minds of the most craziest people out there. So
Yeah, definitely. Welcome to the Baker Files. Today's episode is inspired by the Netflix documentary Maternal Instinct and Taylor Parker, a story that left us with more questions than answers, definitely. We're not here to retell every detail of the case. Instead, we're digging into the why. Why did she do it? Why did Wade stay? Why didn't family members, friends, or professionals step in sooner? And what can we learn from the decisions everyone made along the way? We're going to go over the case. Tyler has not watched this documentary. He's going to listen to it live here. So we're just going to go over some of the stuff that happened. We're not going to retell it. Who was Taylor Parker? Before we get into the crime, we have to understand Taylor, because this wasn't someone who suddenly snapped. According to testimony at trial, Taylor had spent years creating versions of herself that simply weren't true. Friends, coworkers, boyfriends, even employers heard stories that sounded impressive, tragic, and unbelievable. The problem was, most of them weren't real. One of the biggest examples involved money. People thought that she was getting a huge inheritance. Taylor told everybody she was getting money from a syrup fortune. She contacted realtors about purchasing approximately 1,500 acres of land worth nearly $5 million. She bought trucks, very expensive things, telling everybody that,
okay.
she had all this stuff, right? When asked how she planned to pay for it, she always said, well, I'm inheriting money. But there wasn't an inheritance. There wasn't a fortune. But she told it with such confidence that everybody believed her, right?
So she didn't even have any of these things. She just
No.
made it all up. Okay.
No. She did buy the trucks and stuff, though. And Wade, once she got with Wade, she promised him, this ranch, and that she bought him a tractor, and she bought him all these vehicles and stuff, and they had to give them back. So he did learn.
So there was a couple truths to make all the lies seem also plausible.
Yes. And he did learn that this was a lie, that she didn't have an inheritance. But she
Okay.
blamed it all on her mother. She told elaborate stories about how her mother hated her. One involved her mother supposedly hiring a Mexican mafia to kill her. I mean, just crazy. Like, why?
Yeah, that seems unhinged.
Yeah, right? According to witnesses, she bought him all the vehicles and everything after Wade had begun to pull away from their relationship, like after he made him
Okay.
fall for
Understood.
her and these lies. So he would say, like, my mother hates me, and so the story made Wade feel guilty enough that he stayed again.
Okay, but who are these people? Who is Wade? Who is
So
Taylor?
Taylor was just this girl that lived in Texas, and just a normal girl, living her life, and Wade was someone that she meets and has a relationship with,
Okay.
right? So witness after witness described the same thing, that she was very believable. She was confident in her answers, almost like she believed them herself, right? Like to sell these lies, she had to really almost believe what she was telling people.
Right. So before Wade, was there any other exes or any type of history of this almost mass deception that was kind of
Throughout time, yeah, there was a best friend in the documentary that kind of pulled away from her because of, some lies and some things about her pregnancy, like getting too close to her, almost being like obsessive
got
about
you?
her and stuff.
But
So
nothing in her past had
not
been at the point
hugely.
of boiled over to the point of what it
No.
came to.
No.
Okay.
Not to what it came to. Right.
Right.
Like, so people said that once, and we'll get into this a little bit, like Wade really changed her when she met Wade.
I
So,
see.
a little history about pregnancy she couldn't have. Taylor already had 2 children from previous relationships. After severe complications, including an ectopic pregnancy, she had a hysterectomy and she would never be able to become pregnant again. She hated that decision because doctors performed the hysterectomy while she was under anesthesia after receiving permission from her husband. So her husband was asked, you want to save her? We're going to have to do this
Oh, so
hysterectomy.
after that, what was it? The third
Ectopic pregnancy, so that's when the baby
pregnancy.
grows
Okay.
in your fallopian tube.
I see. So after that, while she was out of it,
Yeah.
the husband he condoned the.
Right.
Okay.
And said, "Go do the
But
hysterectomy to
she
save
had
her
no
life."
knowledge of it at the time.
Right.
Okay.
So she woke up, she was furious.
I see.
Friends later testified she desperately wanted another baby.
Even though that it saved her life, otherwise she would have
Right.
passed?
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So friends testified she really wanted another baby. She even asked multiple women to become her surrogate, but nothing ever worked out.
Huh.
She never had one.
So she would have rather died than to have the hysterectomy.
I get, yeah.
I mean,
Like she was mad because
so
she wanted a
furious
baby so
afterwards.
bad, right?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
But she would have. Yeah, I mean, that already goes down the rabbit hole of
Right.
whatever darkness this woman had, because that's just, yeah, like I
Right.
said, unhinged before. Like, you weren't going to have a child anyway because you wouldn't be here
Yeah.
for it. So, okay.
Yeah. So then she met Wade Griffin. So that's Wade. Everyone described Taylor the same way. She was obsessed. Witnesses testified she adored Wade, but many also noticed the relationship seemed one-sided. They said it looked like Taylor cared more about Wade than he cared about her. She appeared terrified of losing him. So hence, I'm going to buy you a ranch. I'm going to buy you all this stuff, right? Then in January of 2020, Taylor announces she's pregnant, except she wasn't, as we know.
Wow.
So then the most elaborate fake pregnancy lie began. She didn't simply tell Wade she was expecting. She built an entire reality. She bought a silicone pregnancy belly, fake ultrasound images off the internet, maternity clothes. She hosted a gender reveal. She had maternity photographs done. A nursery was decorated. They even picked a baby name. Everyone around her believed a baby was coming.
Which is incredible, because such a life event of going through a pregnancy like that and then going through a hysterectomy and then nobody even raising an eyebrow. It's such a deceptive lie.
Yeah.
Like, of course, obviously Wade had no prior knowledge of
Right.
that medical accident, or not accident, but more or less experience. And so she just it was more, did she remove all the people that may have known
Yeah.
out of her life so she could create this fantasy? Okay.
So she was estranged from her mother, right? Because her mother hated her and wanted to kill her and didn't, all the things. So her previous best friend was kind of estranged from her, but still kind of saw them on Facebook and was like, what is she doing? So that's
Oh, okay.
hence the question, why did nobody say anything?
Right.
Right. So pregnancy has a deadline, right? You have a due date. Her due date came, nothing happened. She said doctors delayed the delivery. So you got to remember, this happened in 2020, right? So during COVID, during shutdown. So when she went to the doctors, she told Wade, nobody else can come in with me, right? So he never went to the doctor with her. I don't think
Right.
he really cared enough to go, maybe. It was almost like he was a little indifferent to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then she claimed, because she was now 10 months pregnant, which, wow, what? I mean, I was 2 weeks late with you, but I mean, not 10 months. That's
Right.
just,
Yeah, no, that's
that's
insane.
crazy.
I mean, and that's the thing too, is COVID really did create the perfect storm for the
Yes.
situation, because it
100%.
answers the fact that everything would have been online in
Mhm.
terms of interactions with the people, depending on where they're at, and the restrictions that were held. So yeah, absolutely. She could have 100% fabricated this whole thing without people necessarily being around too much, without raising too much suspicion. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
unfortunate, just of a timing thing.
Very much so. Yeah, it did have perfect. So then she said, oh, she claimed she's going to be induced, right? She's like, okay, we're going to do this. It's going to happen. This is the day. And then Wade's house mysteriously caught on fire. There was a fire at his house.
Hmm.
Hours later, the hospital she supposedly planned to deliver at received a bomb threat.
Whoa.
Taylor blamed both events on her own mother.
Okay.
Whether connected or not, they conveniently bought her more time to keep living the lie, right? There were so many red flags that were
I
missed.
see. So all these things of
Mhm.
the house catching on fire
Mhm.
and the bomb threats, those weren't actually real. They were just conveyed to
Right.
people to as reasons to why
So they
it's not happening.
yeah, there wasn't that I have seen any proof that she did it, but
Okay.
she did it. You know what I
Yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like, I mean, come on. At this point, we know, right? She lit a fire. She called it
No, okay, okay. No,
yeah.
I was just making sure that those weren't just like things to ward
Random
off
things.
anybody else. So she actually, the house did catch on fire.
Yes. Yeah.
The hospital
Yes.
did get an actual bomb
Yes.
threat. Okay.
Yes. Yep. It wasn't a lie. Those
Got you.
things actually happened.
To keep the lie that she
Right.
had
To
going.
keep the
Got you.
exactly right. Right. So many red flags that were missed. The fake inheritance story, Mexican mafia story, fake pregnancy, mysterious fire and bomb threat, her constant manipulation of Wade, friends saying she was very believable.
Yeah, that goes far beyond any type of infatuation. That's definitely
Right.
almost a
Yeah.
beyond obsession. Yeah,
Beyond.
that's right.
She
And that's
wanted to
more or
keep
less
this man.
why that's why we're here. I want to know why.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to dive into the depths of why somebody would even begin to
Do that.
have that reaction and
Right.
make the decisions to even be in such a deceptive hole, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah, to live your life like that and trying to keep up with your lies,
right.
right? Like that to me
Sounds
is
exhausting.
it sounds exhausting, right? Yeah. So up to this point, everything we've talked about has been about Taylor. But now it's time to talk about the real victim. Reagan Hancock was just 21 years old. She lived in New Boston, Texas with her husband, Homer Hancock. The couple was excitedly preparing to welcome their first child together, a daughter they had already named Braxlyn. By every account, Regan was doing everything an expectant mother does. She was decorating the nursery, getting ready for maternity leave, and counting down the weeks until she met her little girl. Her pregnancy had been healthy, and doctors considered Braxlyn to be a viable, healthy baby at about 35 weeks gestation. Reagan had no idea someone was watching her. How Taylor and Reagan met. Taylor didn't randomly pick Reagan. The two women had crossed paths when Reagan hired Taylor to be her wedding photographer in 2019 and continued her friendship after the weddings as Taylor started dating Wade. So they were friends before she even met Wade. They were friends.
Goodness gracious.
Investigators later uncovered evidence showing Taylor had spent months searching for expectant mothers while pretending to be pregnant herself. Reagan fit exactly what Taylor needed, a healthy woman close enough to full term that Taylor's fake pregnancy timeline would make sense. This wasn't a chance encounter. According to prosecution, Reagan was selected because she had something Taylor desperately wanted, a baby. October 9th, 2020, everything came to a head. Taylor had already told Wade that she would be delivering her baby at the hospital in Idabel, Oklahoma. To make sure he wouldn't interfere, she sent him several hours away to deliver hogs, telling him to meet her later at the hospital. So she called, pretending to be this buyer for these hogs that he had and was going to sell. And I think it was like 4 hours away that he had to go. So
Wow.
he had to go sell these hogs. It was a couple, it was money they needed to make. Just, meet me at the hospital later. We'll figure everything out. Like, you wouldn't
Which is
wanna
insane,
be
right?
with your
Because first
girlfriend?
of all, right, not only would you not want to be with your girlfriend, but then as the girlfriend who's been predominantly the entirely obsessive one, the one that has been all in, doesn't want the person she's obsessed with there to have their child.
Right.
That is entirely 180 in terms of what you could imagine. So, of course, hindsight 2020, understanding the way it was, yeah, but
Huge red
there were
flag.
so many things in the moment that so many preventative measures, so many things that if you just took a second. So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no,
huge
that's
red
wild.
flag, right? You
Wow.
don't want this person with you. Like,
Right,
what's going on?
right.
Like, you
That's what I'm
don't want
saying.
me there? Yeah, right? Yeah. But instead of going to the hospital and delivering her non-existent baby, Taylor drove to Reagan's home. She arrived around 7:30 that morning. What happened next would become one of the most brutal crimes Texas has ever seen. Investigators believe Reagan likely welcomed Taylor into her house since they were friends, right? There was no sign of forced entry, and at some point, Taylor attacked. According to the medical examiner, Reagan fought desperately for her life. Blood evidence showed the attack moved through several rooms of the house, meaning Reagan continued trying to escape even after suffering catastrophic injuries. The autopsy documented 113 sharp force injuries, 15 stab wounds, 98 incised wounds, 39 blunt force injuries, 5 skull fractures, a broken nose, and injuries consistent with possible strangulation. The examiner testified Reagan continued bleeding so heavily that by the end of the attack, some wounds no longer bled because she had lost so much blood. After killing Reagan, Taylor performed a crude cesarean section. She cut open Reagan's abdomen, opened the uterus, and removed baby Braxlin, the placenta, and the umbilical cord. According to later jailhouse testimony, Taylor claimed the baby was alive when she removed her. An inmate testified Taylor said she placed the baby against Reagan's face and told her, "Tell Mama bye," before leaving with the infant.
My goodness.
She then got into her car and drove. Cell phone data showed Taylor left Reagan's house. It was around 9:10 that morning, so she'd been there for a couple hours. 20 minutes later, after getting into her car and leaving with the baby, Texas Department of Public Safety Trooper Lee Shavers noticed her driving erratically, speeding, and nearly caused a collision. He pulled her over. As he approached the vehicle, he immediately noticed something horrifying. Taylor was holding a newborn baby. An umbilical cord was still hanging from beneath her clothing. The baby wasn't breathing. Taylor claimed she just unexpectedly delivered the baby inside her car while driving to the hospital. But experienced paramedics immediately knew something didn't add up. There was no blood inside the vehicle, no amniotic fluid, no evidence a birth had occurred there. The baby's skin and umbilical cord suggested she had actually been delivered several minutes earlier. Taylor insisted the baby be taken to the hospital in Idabel, Oklahoma. Paramedics began CPR. In extensive resuscitation efforts, they were able to briefly restore Braxton's heartbeat during transport, but despite every effort, she later passed. Meanwhile, back in New Boston, Regan's mother arrived at the house. She discovered her daughter's body and immediately called 911, also noticing that Regan's 3-year-old daughter was in the home.
Oh my God.
So immediately getting to the hospital, Taylor is still insisting that that is her child, that she just gave birth. Nurses notice things. They're trained. They know when someone's just had given birth.
Right.
So they had a doctor come in and check her. And he definitely said, as we all know,
Deemed that was not the
she did
case.
not give birth. She has not been pregnant. There is no way that this is her
Right.
child.
Oh, this person doesn't have a uterus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, they didn't even go that far, but
didn't need
just
to.
you with an
Right.
initial outward exam could tell there was nothing, right?
Wow.
So, of course, within hours, investigators realized she'd never been pregnant, confirmed she had undergone a hysterectomy years earlier. Searches of her vehicle uncovered evidence supporting the elaborate fake pregnancy, and of course, the fake ultrasound, the silicone pregnancy belly, all the things. The entire pregnancy had been fabricated, as we know. Investigators concluded the murder was the final step in making the lie appear real. She just figured she'd steal a baby. During the trial, Taylor Parker was charged with capital murder. The prosecution argued she intentionally murdered Reagan while kidnapping or attempting to kidnap baby Braxlin. The defense did not dispute that Reagan had been killed. Instead, one of its primary arguments was that prosecutors had failed to prove Braxland had been born alive, which was legal significance because the capital murder charge depended on the kidnapping or attempted kidnapping of a person under Texas law. So definitely different, if it's attempted or if it's kidnapping, if the baby had been alive or not.
Right.
Jurors heard weeks of testimony from medical experts, investigators, friends, coworkers, and even a fellow inmate who claimed Taylor confessed details of the crime. The jury found Taylor Parker guilty of capital murder. During the punishment phase, they answered the required special issues in favor of the death penalty. In November of 2025, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals unanimously upheld both her conviction and her death sentence, finding the evidence legally sufficient and rejected all 25 issues raised on appeal. So she's one of only, I think, 9 women that have ever been given the death penalty in Texas. So she's waiting, and she's still trying to appeal.
Well,
She's still trying to
oh,
appeal,
I'm
you
sure
know.
because in her absolutely twisted fantasy, she did nothing wrong in
Right.
her own way of thinking. And first and foremost, condolences to the victims and the victims' families.
100%.
Immediately, my mind goes to where in the world was this? There was no way to even, 'cause that's hearing a story like that
Right.
immediately puts you at pause, and it's hard to come up with thoughts because it's just such a tragic story. But in terms of trying to delve into the mind of somebody who decides to do these things, there's no way that there was any process of any thought. There was a goal to be achieved, and there was a twisted way of getting there, and there was nothing anybody could do to stop that person from doing so.
Right.
And it just goes back to so many questions of whether or not
Mhm.
um, the psychology of it, whether it was something as a child, is it a behavioral situation? Is it an environmental situation? And I'm sure you can only get so much information out there for
Yeah.
these people's pasts, but it's just like, where in the world it had to have started with the only way that I can explain was losing or going through that medical experience with her and
And not
having
getting
that
that
hysterectomy.
hysterectomy. Yeah,
It
and
changed
losing that
something.
child.
That
Yeah.
must have done something to her mentally that just absolutely broke. And then at that point, nothing else mattered. It was this Wade person and having a baby, and it was just almost a situation of psychosis and just like completely losing it.
Yeah. And she was just single-mindedly, does it come down to you just want something so bad and you obsess over it so much that you lose all focus of everything else? Like, I just can't even wrap my head around how you can deceive someone like that. Like, that's just so not my nature at all
Right,
that, you know it's yeah. And 2, like, she lived with Wade. How she lived with this guy
right.
and was supposedly pregnant, and he didn't notice?
Right, you sleep next to this person every
Yeah,
night.
he
You
said that they
don't
weren't
take a
intimate.
shower together, don't so of course not
Yeah,
not intimate. I mean, how else would you keep up such a
right.
lie?
But, I mean, there was photographs from the neighbors because they had a neighbor. They were on a farm, but they had neighbors who could see, and there was photographs to where and, she was supposedly 9 months pregnant, and she wasn't wearing her fake belly bump,
Right,
So, oh, you have a belly bump one day and you don't the next? I mean, and she's a larger girl, but still not she wasn't that big, what I mean, to where you could hide a pregnant belly.
right,
I mean, I'm a big girl, but I definitely was 9 months pregnant when I was 9 months pregnant.
of course.
So, how complacent was Wade in all of this too? Like he says, "Oh, it's not my fault, I believed her." But
Right, is there it becomes a point of complacency. Like,
mhm,
you almost have a right as being in relations with someone to hold them accountable, you
yes.
know,
Question that.
for
How did you not
as Wade holding her accountable for the certain things, and there was just a complete lack of attention to anything.
Yeah,
And so it's hard to just like there was like I said before, there were so many different preventative measures and things that could have stopped the tragedy from happening. And it's just so crazy as you think about generally as everyday humans, you weigh your options when it comes to almost everything. When it down to the minuscule things is what you're gonna do for the day, or whether or not what you're gonna eat, or what you're gonna watch, right? To the maximum weighing out options of things, of the pros and cons, and just the consequences of things. And that no matter what, having a child, having a baby, in her fantasy and her reality outweighed her convictions of capital murder and
Yeah.
kidnapping and all
Right.
these lies, like, setting a house on fire,
Yeah.
bomb threatening a hospital,
Yeah.
like, these all didn't mean a single shred of anything compared to what her desires were and her obsessions were.
Yeah. I wonder if was this the plan from the beginning,
Oh, no.
or did she just keep telling lies until murder became the only way to keep them alive,
That's what I'm
you
saying is
know?
there was a singular obsession of wanting a child, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is that she could never have one. And so that just festered and grew
Mhm.
and grew and grew over time to where eventually everything just boiled over to the point where nothing else mattered but having what she wanted,
Yeah.
And so I don't think that there was a predetermined plan even before she decided to do the fake pregnancy. It just was one thing after another, or how much she could get away with,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And then
And it just kept
it turned
going.
to the point to where it's like, how do you I'm sure it was a thought, was what happens if I'm found out?
Yeah. Yeah,
And so it was
100%.
like, I have to do the extreme to keep her reality going, and that's what mattered more. So
Yeah.
it couldn't even necessarily be the baby. It's just this thing in her mind
Not
that
being caught.
that she obsessed over for so long. It almost created this, you know, like, who knows? Maybe she genuinely thought that was her, but
Yeah.
you're sitting in this
Yeah.
car with, this little girl, and it's like, I don't know how you can.
There's video if you watch the documentary, there's video of her in the hospital bed, and she genuinely looks, like, confused, like, "What are you talking about? That's my baby." Like, how can you
Yeah, she's in
how can
complete
you say
delusion.
yeah.
It's
Like,
complete
she's
and utter delusion.
completely convinced herself that but I mean, of course, she had to have known on some level. So it's like, how do you balance those 2? Like, "This
R
is my baby,"
Well, that's what
or
I mean.
was
It could
she really just putting one over trying to not get caught, you know?
Yeah, I
And
think this is a case of just complete psychological breakdown. It had to
oh,
have been
yeah.
in a situation of when she wasn't able to have a child anymore. Something had to have happened mentally that just absolutely broke. And she probably, in the situation of currently fighting the victim, was thinking she was trying to protect her own child,
Right.
maybe, or she was in a situation to where it was like she had to have what she needed. She had to have her child. And once she made it up in her mind, in her twisted delusion, it didn't matter
Yeah.
what it was, and and that's
I mean, the murder was
how could something, I mean, of course, everyone goes through so many things.
right.
That's a tragedy in its own right of, you are in a position where you don't get a choice what happens to you. Of course, a lot of people, I would imagine, would want to live on, and whatever it may be, but it broke her mind that much
Yeah,
to allow her to
100%.
create such heinous
Mhm.
crimes is
Mhm.
wow.
Yeah. To have it just it blows me away that someone can do that. And it just it that's what fascinates me about the human psyche
Right.
in these cases, like, to do something it's the brutality of what she did to Reagan. Just I mean, that's time spent.
Right. And that's the thing too, is when you talk about murder cases, right? I feel like a lot of the times these people who are acting out are on these desires of, because they want to kill, because they
Yes,
want to do these horrible things. It doesn't even sound like killing was just a means to her
to an
goal.
end. Yeah,
It was just a means of getting what she wanted. It wasn't that she probably never even considered that killing was something she wanted to do. It's just that was just the only way to get what she wanted,
right,
which is
right.
very different from what I feel like when you talk about other cases where it's like, first degree murder. Obviously, that's intended, and then you have second and third degree who, it's a depending on the situation, can be so many different things. But did she ever, I mean, she's appealing, right? Did she ever feign insanity? Did she do anything like mental? Because obviously this is a mental situation, right?
Absolutely. Not that I saw in the transcripts that I read, there was never anything about pleading insanity.
I see. Because
It's actually really hard. Only it's really hard to plead insanity and, like, actually there's another case that I wanna do later that the guy actually pled insanity and got away with it,
I see.
but it's not very common, actually, when
No,
you
yeah,
you
as
know,
as far as I can uh,
you see it on TV all the time, but
right, as far as I can tell, it's right, that's kind of a public
Mhm,
thing of understanding of, like, oh, a lot of people, I can get out of it. Or you see it a lot of times too,
mhm,
modern day stuff is like they feel that they can frame it and
right.
what, but there's so many measures in place to kinda really be able to genuinely tell whether or not somebody is clearly there or not. And that's the thing is, like, obviously she's not. Of
No.
course, this woman is not there, but it's like it doesn't really, whether she is or isn't, I don't believe that feigning insanity is always, it's not some cop, like, you did what you did at the end of
Yeah,
the day,
yeah,
And, of course, mental health is a huge, part of, obviously, when it comes to, the crimes and
mhm,
things like this, but just in general. And so it's hard to sit here and say, like, it's not somebody's fault. Of course, in
right.
this case, it doesn't
She
matter. That
planned it.
was,
I mean,
yeah, there was absolutely,
this
it
was
was
an
intended.
elaborate
That's what
yeah,
I'm saying, but that's, of course, it was first degree,
yeah,
but it was more or less of like, and I guess that's what it comes down to too, is like sometimes, yes, there's those people who just wanna kill, but then there's always an extra thing to it. And
yeah,
in this case, it was just unfortunately much more heinous.
right. Yeah, there's a lot of different degrees, right? Of course, like, first degree murder, second degree murder. But I think even like having as a human being being able to kill someone, like you said, you have the people who want to do it. They are serial killers. They have that urge. And then there's, would you kill to protect yourself? Like,
Right,
would you kill for your children? Would you kill, I think there's so many different things, but why would she how could she do this to someone else? And it just that's why that's what we're here for, And that's what we'll never probably answer those questions.
right. And I think what it comes down to is it's a complete lack of empathy. There was
Oh,
no regard
100%.
for anything other
None.
than herself. People
Selfish.
were just there as a means to her desires, were just things to be used.
Mhm.
And so it comes down to, like, you and I sitting here thinking how or why. It comes down to is there is no how or why,
Right.
particularly because it is just getting to what they need, right? Like, you think my understanding of, if I'm not able to have a child, taking any life in any general is never, will never out
No.
it, having a, or not being able to, or having wanting to have a child when
Yeah.
not being able to have one will never outweigh taking the life of another.
Right.
You know,
You would never go to
that is
extremes.
a non-negotiable. That just is,
Yeah.
in our minds. In theirs, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
Or in hers, in this case, it's the complete opposite of she'll do whatever it takes,
Yeah, and
you know?
there are a lot of women out there that would steal a baby. Not necessarily kill the mother, but, you hear about
Oh, absolutely.
people that kidnap, babies and buy babies and, it's a thing that urge to be a mother is so strong sometimes, I think, with people that it's just that single-mindedness, and I think that really played into her. She became, I've known people that wanted to be a mom so bad that it would just, they would just be so incredibly, emotional and but to get to this point of killing someone and I mean,
2 people.
yeah, yeah, and performing a cesarean, like how do you even
There is no realm in
yeah,
in
I
in which
just
she like, you think there's no way that she thought that it was her baby, but she wouldn't have done it otherwise had she,
mhm,
you know what I mean? And so that's what it comes down to, is truly, genuinely, is she so delusionally and lost that she does think it was a kid? Or was it to maintain a lie, So was maintaining the lie the most important part? It
Right.
depends on what the goal is, right? And then you can kind of try to dissect how or why. And ultimately, thinking back on it, it very well could have been to keep up the lie.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like when we started, this all started with an obsession of a man, right? And to keep that story going, to have this quote unquote maybe perfect life that everybody wants, and she no longer can have a child. She needed a child to continue this,
Yes. And I think she felt, that he wasn't all in, and a lot of
and
women.
that she needed a child
Yeah.
to confirm it. Yeah,
Yeah. Like now
there needed to be a child for
yeah.
there to be
How can I keep him?
right. No,
How
and
will
it
he stay?
exactly. That's another thing is like, yeah, would she had listen, it had this perfect storm of COVID and this completely oblivious man and all these things that led up to these horrible circumstances. Had she have killed another way? Would she have killed in a different situation?
Mm.
Or was this
Oh,
just, like I
yeah.
said, a perfect storm that led from deception of lies and lies to keep up the story, and it just boiled to this point? And to also bring the fact of it's like it's always who you know, right?
Right.
Like, had she not have had the opportunity or the timing of Reagan being pregnant at the time, would she have gone to somebody random?
Yeah.
Would have that been a, because that's an entirely different thing on its not
Yeah.
it different thing on its own, but of course, how certain perpetrators will go at random, but of course, in most cases, it's always someone they know. It's whether it's ease of access or this or that. Um,
Would she, if she could not have gotten a baby, could she have possibly killed Wade?
right. I don't know. That was her obsession. That was her life.
Right.
That was
But
her obsession.
if she couldn't, if she
What would
was
she need
10
to
months
kill?
pregnant, how would she have, how would it have culminated? Like, would she have killed anyway? It's kind of,
Right.
you made me think of that, right? Like you said, would she have killed anyway? So if she couldn't get a baby, if she couldn't find anybody to get a baby, like
Mm,
what would she have done to stop her lie or not stop her lie? You know what I mean?
yeah.
But I mean, because I mean, his parents,
'Cause I mean,
even his
ultimately, I think we
mom,
know that she most likely would have found somebody
right. But I mean,
because she
even
was
his
willing to go to
mom
the means
told
that she did.
him that, because she kind of heard, she can't have a baby. Like, what are you doing? This woman is deceiving you. And he
Yeah.
didn't listen. So, she knew there was people.
And so that's the thing, right? Is like from what we can tell, he's feigning ignorance,
Yes.
you know? But that I don't think that could be. There's just no way.
Yeah.
There's
And,
just no
and
way.
that is a question too that a lot of people ask. Like, how did he not know? Why did he stay? Why did he,
So you're telling me
you
straight up
know,
that he was straight up told from somebody that
he was
is in
told
the
his
family
mother.
and he
This
just
was in the
didn't.
documentary. His mother,
Oh,
told him.
his mother, not her
Yeah,
mother?
no, his mother. Her mother never came
How did his
forward
mother know?
from the friend and Facebook and what's going on and how is she,
Right. So the mom
Oh, yeah.
did some
So
things
people
and
knew
right.
that she couldn't
And
have
so
a
it's like
baby.
if they know, how does he not know?
Right.
Like what are we
And
doing here?
how did they, and like her doctors even, because it's a small area where she lived in Texas, So her doctors that gave her the hysterectomy, they were like, whoa, what's going on? But they can't say anything per HIPAA. They can't release that information. So
It very well could have been a situation of he very well damn knew,
could have.
and they both could have coaxed this delusion.
Hmm. He's saying
Well,
no.
of course not.
He's
Yeah,
going,
because he of course
yeah,
isn't going to be at fault. He didn't do the crime. He didn't do this. He
yeah.
didn't do that. But what I'm saying is like it very well could have been. I might be going on a limb here, but it very well could have been this person she's obsessed with. He well could have been a conspirator in wanting to have a child and this, and that. And then now we're just getting this side of it now because obviously,
He's like, whoa,
of course, yeah, and so who knows? I'm just
yeah,
saying like it very well because like it's the only way for me to kind of try to conceptualize how somebody wouldn't have known. No, he actually did
yeah.
know. He was part of this. He was part of this
I
lie.
don't know. He was pretty indifferent about the whole thing. Like she called him when she got pulled over and was at the ambulance. She was sitting in the ambulance, and this was recorded on like body cam footage. She called him and was like, "I'm going to the hospital. I had the baby. I had the baby in the car." And he was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna finish up here and I'll be on my way." Like nonchalant, like, "Oh, you just had a baby in a car, whatever."
That's
you
what I'm
know?
saying, like,
Yeah.
it's almost like that was their thing, is
Yeah.
it was to
Oh.
be, like, that way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Oh, yeah.
like,
Because
it
if he
could
knew
play
she
into this
wasn't
role of,
pregnant.
like exactly, you know?
Oh, yeah, okay. And he's saying now, so he's going on lives on TikTok and he's saying like she's she tried to poison him with Drano because he found Drano under the sink and he never uses Drano and there was some in the fridge and that's
Right,
all
their
just
fantasy never played out, so of
circumstances,
course he's
right?
gonna their fantasy never played out,
Hmm,
you know what I mean? And so
interesting.
it
Yeah.
didn't go his way, didn't go her way, you know? Like,
Yeah,
they could have very well, in some twisted way, been on it in some way together, you know? And it's just feigning ignorance now, of course, because that's
right.
the only
Of course. Oh,
possible way you
yeah,
could
yeah.
go,
Yeah.
you know? Because she was so obsessive with it. Maybe she was pushed along.
Right.
Because otherwise, she made these decisions all on her own, you know, and it's like because it just goes
Yeah.
back to the obsession part, right? Of like, why do you of course, because that's what we hear now, like, "Oh, he was
Mhm.
indifferent. Oh, he didn't care about her, so it's all her fault. She did all this to
Right.
try to get
But
me."
how but
When in
that's the
reality, it could have
question.
been
But everybody's like, "How could he not have known? How could
yeah,
he not
no.
have
I
realized?
I refuse to
How
believe
could"
that he
You're
didn't.
right. Yeah. Like, were
Almost in
you
this sense,
that
you know?
complacent? Like, were you so
Because if you're
I
so
mean, like,
complacent with
dude, it's
somebody, like,
almost like
why are you with this person?
yeah,
Why are you doing what you're doing?
right.
You know?
But it was so, like, almost like you're an idiot. Like, how did you
Right.
not and do you wanna be like, really? Like, that's what people are like, yeah.
And I mean, that's another thing people do too, you know? It's
Mhm.
like there's insanity and then there's your framing, you know, lack of understanding
Right.
and certain things like that, you know? And so it's like he could just be playing that card.
Yeah.
And again, I could totally be going on a limb here. I don't know the whole situation, the whole case, but
Well,
just from
right.
what it sounds like,
And I think
it's just
nobody
trying to come up
does.
with ideas of
Yeah.
what is this guy doing? Why did she do what she did? You
Yeah.
know, and so that could be AY. Of course, we'll
And we're
never know,
never
but
gonna know.
no, of course not.
We weren't in the home,
That's
nobody
what we're
was
here to talk
there.
about is to try
Yeah,
to figure out in different, try to
different
come up with it
perspectives.
exactly different
Yeah.
perspectives on it. And so,
Well, I think we're never gonna figure out 'cause, at this point,
right.
but definitely something to think about. I hope we've given everybody something to think about, think
Yeah,
about why.
absolutely.
What drove her to that? We thank you for listening to our first episode of the Baker Files. We have more to come. I don't know what case we'd like to do next. If you have any ideas, definitely visit us on our Facebook page. We are also on TikTok or Instagram, and those will be linked with the episode when we air it. Come join us and follow us. And thank you for listening.
Right on. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you stopping by and hopefully we'll see you again.